a rich man's world. I have turned the soul of this beautiful land, but that beauty, a rich man's world. I have turned the soul of this beautiful land, but
What's up, everybody? Happy Wednesday. So I came on here today to talk about this tragic story that took place in Washington, D.C. earlier this month. Now, this is where a 13-year-old boy was shot and killed by a city employee. This has sparked major outrage in the community and prompted anger towards the D.C. Police Department, leaving parents with questions as to how this could have happened. Check out this news clip, and I'll be right back.
It's the teen killing that brought outrage in Washington, D.C. Tonight, murder charges announced against the man who shot 13-year-old Karon Blake to death, as some of the boy's last words are being revealed.
On Monday, that arrest warrant was signed by the judge charging 41-year-old Jason Lewis of Northeast D.C. with second-degree murder while armed.
According to the affidavit, after being shot by Lewis, the teenager can be heard on recordings yelling, quote, "I am sorry, please don't, and I am a kid." The murder charge comes after Karon's family and a number of community members spent weeks demanding authorities identify the shooter and make an arrest. Emotions were highly charged.
This is in fact a murder, a homicide. MPD, the U.S. Attorney Office, do your damn job.
D.C. Metro Police laid out more details from the shooting at 4 a.m. on January 7th. This after speaking to witnesses, reviewing video, and uncovering new evidence. Police Chief Robert Conti saying Karon was with at least two other people shining flashlights into cars.
They were peering into cars that were in the block in front of where Mr. Lewis resides, and they were going into the cars.
According to police, Lewis first fired into one of the cars.
I think the biggest grievance is that the first shot that was fired was actually fired at someone who was sitting in a vehicle who was not an immediate threat to the person who fired the shot.
Police say these surveillance images from the affidavit then show Lewis raising his left arm and firing at Karon.
At some point, Karon ran toward Mr. Lewis, and Mr. Lewis fired shots striking Karon and killing him. He was standing outside of his door, but still on the property.
According to the affidavit, a witness told police that Karon got about 5 feet away from Lewis before they heard the shot.
Mr. Lewis, in this case, was a licensed concealed carry permit holder on his property when the shooting happened.
Conti said Lewis, an employee for the D.C. Department of Parks and Recreation, made, quote, somewhat of a self-defense claim.
If the prosecution introduces evidence that Blake said things like, "I'm sorry and I'm just 12 years old," this could be devastating for the defense because it tends to show that this person was not a threat to the defendant.
An attorney for Lewis said his client maintains his innocence, writing in part, "While this is certainly a tragedy, once all the facts are heard, I believe that a jury will find that there was no crime here." Karon's family spoke to Tom just days after the shooting.
Even though he snuck outside 3 or 4 o'clock in the morning, he still shouldn't have got shot for playing with a car. This man shot my grandson more than once. It just don't make sense.
All right, Yamiche joins us now from Washington tonight. Yamiche, talk to me about the community response to these charges and what the mayor is saying tonight.
Well, Tom, clearly the community was pushing to identify the shooter, to identify what happened. They wanted real answers here. They wanted accountability. And now the community is feeling, it seems like they are getting some of that accountability. But you could hear in the police chief's press conference that he was really speaking to the people who thought maybe this took too long. And he was saying at the end of the day, they were not going to be rushed into an investigation. And of course, as you said, the D.C. mayor did release a statement thanking the police for what she called a, quote, thorough investigation, in some way nodding to the fact that this took a little bit longer than some people would have liked. She also said, quote, Karon Blake's death was needless. Too many guns are leading to too many tragedies. We cannot fuel this horrific and traumatizing cycle of violence without every person, family, and community helping to keep our young people safe. So really the D.C. mayor here releasing that statement, in some ways applauding the police work here and also getting at the idea that the community wants answers. We, of course, had Jason Lewis have his first court appearance. Both families were in court. That would be the family of Jason Lewis as well as Karon Blake. Neither one of them spoke, but the idea is that at least now the process is moving forward in a way that people were hoping it would, Tom.
Now, while this is an extremely heartbreaking story, This is definitely a double-edged situation. And the type of person that I am, I can pretty much see everybody's side on this. But what's most interesting about all this are the comments, and they are wild. Check out these comments, and I'll be right back with my thoughts. This story is crazy tragic and was completely avoidable, in my opinion. While I see the community in outrage over this, and rightfully so, the parents and grandfather are angry, distraught, and sad, as would I. However, this kid snuck out the house at 3, 4 in the morning, okay? And I don't care what generation you're from, the streets have always been the streets. Anything after midnight usually equates to some sort of trouble out here in these streets. I remember back in the day, they used to have this commercial, right? It used to say, "It's 11 o'clock. Do you know where your children are?" That commercial that had the light post shown. Maybe we need to go back to that. At least back in those days, you didn't see kids losing their lives like that because their ass would be in the bed. Now, I see a lot of folks blaming the parents, but at 3, 4 in the morning, parents are usually asleep. And kids do sneak out the house. So I'm not sure if this had anything to do with, his upbringing or not. I'm also seeing a lot of adults forgetting the fact that they were 13 at one point in time. The difference is most adults were able to grow past that age of 13 and reflect on the mistakes that they made in their past and were granted the opportunity to live and tell about it. Or the fact that the dirt they did back then, they just were not caught. So a lot of these adults with these self-righteous comments can actually miss me with the bullshit, okay? This is just a tragic story. Also, the grandfather, in my opinion, looks kind of young, a little too young to have a grandchild that's 13. We don't know if he's the youngest, oldest, or the only grandchild, but I'm curious to know how old the parents are. But let's be real, most metropolitan cities don't really enforce curfew. From D.C. to B-more to New York to even Atlanta, it is what it is. But in my opinion, I believe that these places should start cracking down on curfew again so these children can remain safe. All right, y'all, leave a comment below. Let me know what you think. Do you think the city employee's actions were self-defense? Should he remain locked up? Do you feel the parents need to take accountability? Should parents collectively utilize better parenting practices in general? And how do you feel about the outcome of this young boy's actions? Rest in peace to this kid. Leave a comment, like, share, subscribe. I'm out.
A rich man's world.